All right, everybody. Welcome to Mega Mornings with Dustin Pritchard, Mega Momentum Mentors. Today, I got Brendan Bartic on the show again. You know what? I'm so excited to have Brandon on the call because not only is he rocking out such a style and haircut, he has the same kind of origin story that I do. My God, so much fun. Like, Brandon, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, Dustin, thanks for having me. I think this is such a great value for everyone out there, and I love any time that we get to speak.
All right, that's very cool. So, I anytime I start doing a show, I always ask for a bio, and your staff sent over a bio, and something that really stood out to me was that $98 to your name, a bus ticket, and then a duffel bag. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Like, that's got to be part of your origin story, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I grew up in the social service system. So I went into the social services system when I was 11. My family situation wasn't able for me to be there. So went to group home, emancipated, and joined the Army when I was 17, and was in the Army for 4 years. And after serving my tour, I finished in the Army, and you don't make a lot in the Army when you're enlisted. And so I had, 97 bucks, a Greyhound bus ticket, and my duffel bag from the Army. And that's what led me, on my path to real estate in a really interesting and weird way. But I think I always talk about that story just because also I have a GED, so I never finished high school, never went to college. And it's just because of great mentors and coaches that I had along the way that enabled me to build the real estate organizations that I have now and help others now on that journey.
Yeah. So that experience that taught you a number of lessons. Obviously, you tell that story as part of your origin story, as part of where you came from. But what do you think you learned the most from that experience?
I think the biggest takeaway is that you have to always act like you only have $97 to your name. I tell this to people all the time. I go, comfort is the killer of greatness. And I watched so many people get comfortable with a set amount of money, a set amount of way they're experiencing life. And when you get comfortable, whether that's a $40,000 a year job or whatever it might be, it's really hard for you to break out of that. So if that fear is always at your back, not even fear in a bad way, but that there's nowhere else to go, and you've got to make this work, burn the ships, as Tony Robbins says, burn the ships. I think about it all the time. Burn the ships. We're not going back. And I think people put their toe in sometimes, Dustin, and they test the water, and then it's just you got to be all in as an entrepreneur, especially in real estate. It's not for the faint of heart that are just going to go, I really want to come in and just be average, even though there's a lot of that, obviously. But if you really want to make it, I mean, you just have to act every day like you've got 97 bucks, and how are you going to do this?
Oh, dude, I can relate to that 100%. Like when I first started in real estate, I was in between contracts. I build sales teams and I service contracts, and I was in between contracts. And so I was hustling to get my real estate license, studying every single day. Like in Canada, you got to do like it takes 2 years to get your real estate license in some cases, right? So it's a bit of a hustle and a bit of a grind to actually get licensed so you can start performing out in the field. And I couldn't buy a cup of coffee. I can remember that. I'll tell you though, like I tell that story exactly the same reason, because it gives you so much drive and hustle. You have no choice. It's not about burning your ships. It's like, do you want to eat? Do you want to sleep in a bed tonight? Your back is against the wall, and that kind of, it just reminds me of that story, the analogy of that guru that his student came up to him and said, "Listen, I want to make a ton of money. I want to be very successful just like you." And he took him out in the water, and he put his head under the water, and he held him under the water until he couldn't breathe anymore. And he was struggling, he was striving, and he was dying. And finally, when he was released and he was able to go out and breathe, finally, he says, "Why did you do that?" He says, "Well, you need to want that success just as bad as you wanted that air."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's difficult, right? It's the other problem is once you even start to think that you're getting there, what our model and our beliefs are is we're big firm believers in visual scoreboards and the 4 disciplines of execution.
Yeah.
And what I also find is people, again, they don't know what they want. They have an idea of what they want. I interview people all the time, and I go, so let's fast forward 3 years. Everything's awesome in 3 years. What does that look like? And I hear the same things over and over. I want a balanced life. I want to be happy.
Yeah.
And it's very vague, right? All of this stuff is very, very vague, right? You find with the most successful entrepreneurs and business owners is they could see and almost smell and touch where they wanted to be. And then they got there, and then they had to do it again and create something bigger to even to get out of that rut, right? I think people, so that's the hard part, right?
The success rut.
Yeah. So it's constantly just, as dumb as it is, it's having that 3-year plan, that 1-year plan. I ask people, where's the top of your Mount Everest, right? Like, how do you know when you got there? And then once you get there, what would be the next Everest?
Yeah. Right? How do you measure it? How do you measure it? Like, and what does it actually mean? Like when I'm coaching agents, I do the exact same thing. Do a discovery call. Where do you want to go? What do you want to achieve? And almost all of them come back and say, I want to make $100,000 a year. I'm like, great, but that doesn't mean anything. Sure. What does it actually give you? What does your life look like? What kind of car do you drive? Where do you live? What kind of food are you eating? What kind of things are you doing in your spare time? What kind of value are you giving back to your community? What's a day in your life look like once you've achieved freedom? What's that look, taste, smell like? And it's really, really interesting, because the people that can articulate that in detail are the ones that actually are making headway and start moving their business towards that goal. And they end up achieving a crap ton. Even if they don't hit that particular goal in that time frame, they're still so much further ahead than they would have been if they were just dreaming about it, or dreaming about the 6 figures and not dreaming about how to actually measure it.
Correct. Yeah. And that's a big piece of this. Is it's just, you can have the best intentions, right? Everyone has the best intentions, but you have to have a destination, and then we got to create a map to get there. That's all we can really do. Is a lot of times I'm just like you just said, why make $100,000? What does that do for you? What does that change in your life? I ask people all the time, I go, what's the difference between making $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month? And it's so hard for people to articulate that, because what really is the difference for most people, right? I mean, an extra $50,000 a year, is that going to be life-changing money for you? Or 120, whatever the number might be per year that you're adding onto it. I go, why do you want that? So I think that's the challenge, is helping people get clarity on what they want. I think the challenge is making sure that they understand that so little is obtainable in what they think they can do in a year. But they're doubting how much, you hear it all the time, that saying, but how much they can accomplish in 3 or 5, right? It's
incredible.
That deferred gratification in real estate. I used to teach a class where I'd bring in $10,000 in cash, right, from the bank, and I'd have a $10,000, and I would set it down and I would go, look, you get this money. All you have to do is have 400 conversations about buying or selling real estate. 400, and you get this $10,000. I go, if I were to do that right now, would you go and do it? And they're like, oh yeah, of course, absolutely. Give me the phone. And then I'm like, well, that's real estate. Why aren't you doing it? You have to have 400 conversations. Not that you have to, but on average, 400 conversations a month, 100 a week. And I can guarantee you'll easily make $10,000 a month cash. We've tracked our numbers for almost 14 years now, and it never is inconsistent to that. Right. Then you make less calls as your database builds, and it becomes a lot easier. Exactly. But they don't believe it, because they're going, oh, I did that, but I didn't get the cash. It's like, because it takes 60, 90 days, because you have to meet people, talk to them, list them, sell them, buy them, or you work with them as buyers. So it's just so mental. I think people get amazed by my coaching. They're like, we don't talk about real estate a lot, Brendan. It's like, it's all about clarity and mindset. And I go, because the real estate part's easy. If you don't know why you want it, then you're not going to get up out of bed and make calls.
No,
right? That's the whole thing. So we got to first tap in, why do you want this? And I can tell you, Dustin, it can take weeks and months and sometimes longer than that to figure it out. It's crazy.
No, it does. It takes time. And I found that it's a paradigm shift. Like, people don't understand how to extrapolate or to take themselves out of their existence right now, their perceived reality right this second, to imagine what it would be like without certain pain or
Yes.
with certain pleasure that they think that they would like in their life, right? So
Right.
I do the same thing. We spend a lot of time on vision. We spend a lot of time on lifestyle. We spend a lot of time on talking about what it's going to feel and look like. What's your day look like? What's your experience going to be like when you no longer have to do X, Y, and Z to make that money,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. 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 And we, even in our interview process, so we do an exercise called When Everything's Awesome in 3 years. And Dustin, we take a piece of paper, we put it into 4 quadrants.
Yeah.
And I go, great, you join our organization. We're sitting here in 3 years, toasting a glass of your favorite beverage. I'm going to break this into 4 categories: career, money, health, and relationships. And I
Yeah.
want you to bullet point 3 to 5 bullet points of, in very detail, right? And this is the hardest part, is they'll stay
That
in
is
the
hard.
big, very detail of, if we were celebrating your success, what did you accomplish in that 3-year period?
Yeah.
And boy, that's a great, I mean, I tell people you should do that once a quarter anyway for yourself, because it's going to change too, right?
Oh,
Like
it'll
I was
evolve.
telling the story the other day, and I said, when I first did that exercise,
Yeah.
I wanted a black Lexus GS 350. This was back in, like, gosh, this must be like, I don't even know, 2000, no, nine, I don't know how, yeah, 2001, 2002.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I got a Lexus, like, I mean, again, 97 bucks in my pocket, like, and I was also 23 or whatever I was at the time. And it was just, so obviously it's changed since then, right? And now, and not all material either, right? It's like, now it's, how much can I do for my charity, and how much can I raise every year? And, so it's definitely evolved, but, it's interesting that people just won't spend the time to get that dialed in, right?
No, that point of clarity is so incredibly important. Like, they don't spend enough time on it. And you're right. Like, I say exactly the same thing. Like, what I look for in people is ambition. I look for an attitude. I look for a work ethic. I look for a
grit.
mentality. Those things are super important, because I tell them that's 90%. 90% of your success story is those things that you bring to the table. I can teach you the 10% that you need in skills to
Right.
be successful. But
Right.
I can't give you those things. If I could give that stuff away, I'd be richer than Elon Musk.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's a lot of, I think, what makes it so fun and exciting to get to work with so many, agents and help them on this discovery. And we also do business entrepreneurs and mortgage brokers. I mean, we have a number of different variety of people that we help, but yeah, it's always interesting, because the other thing we'll do with that exercise that I just explained is, after you write it out, then we come back and we go, okay, cool. Everything you put on there, now I want you to take that information and use what we call the SMART acronym. And I want you to go back over it and make it specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. Obviously, 3 years is the time, but
Yeah.
and they get stuck on that specific, right? They just get stuck. And I go, vague goals lead to vague outcomes, right?
That's
If you have vague goals, so we spend time and it's drilling it down and drilling it down. And why does that matter to you? And then people are finally like, oh, now I know. Okay, cool. And then I go, then it's easy to wake up tomorrow and make a map and build out this. So when you're doing 20 conversations a day, soon as you hit that 18th conversation and you want to quit, you have a visual map of going, but this is what my life's going to look like in that 3rd year.
Yeah.
I'm going to make those 2 extra contacts. Like, of course I want that. So yeah, it's fun. It gets really fun.
Well, it gets super fun, but like, I can relate to this. Like, I did exactly the same thing for the longest time, for years and years and years. Of people that know me, I would say 6 and 6. I want to be 6 months in Canada and 6 months down in Mexico, because I love living down here, right? But that 6 and 6 was giving me vacations. It was giving me like a month off in Akamal. I'd be able to go sit on the beach for a little while and have some fun, but it wasn't giving me a lifestyle. It wasn't giving me that 6 months until I actually dialed in exactly. I got to talk to this many people. I have to mentor this many people. I need to attract this many people. We need to do this amount of production within our mentorship group for me to be able to live that lifestyle. As soon as I did that, within a year, it was dialed in and it was happening. It was my reality.
It's awesome.
Which is incredible. Once you got that vision dialed in, it's so easy for you to put effort every single day into it. One of the cool tips that I do with my people is I just get them to do a sticky note. Right? Those visual reminders. I don't know if you guys do this or not, but I do a sticky note, write down a number or something, an image or something that articulates your end goal. What does this look like? What does this mean? And stick that all over the house. Put it on the light switches, put it on your fridge, put it in your bathroom mirror. Every single time you go around your house, you're being reminded that today's effort is getting you towards that goal.
Yeah.
Right?
And
Those visual reminders are so important.
it's huge. Yeah. We do what we call a weekly focus sheet that we tape to our bathroom mirrors, right? It's the first thing you see in the morning, the last thing you see before you go to bed, hopefully if you're brushing your teeth. And you're right? Because you forget. And then I see so many people that are like, well, I've got it all in a Google Drive. I'm like, you put it in a Google Drive, it dies in a Google Drive, right? If you put it in this, it dies there. Or I'll see people go to 4-day seminars, or they'll come back from a Tony Robbins or this or that. And it's like always, and then I go a week later. So what was it again? Oh, I don't know. It's in one of my notes somewhere, what I wrote down. I'm like, yeah, because you've got to keep it front and center. I love that with the sticky notes. For us, it's like, whether in real estate, a lot of times the goal is a unit count, right? So like whatever your unit count is. And I'm like, that becomes my lockbox code, my bank number, like whatever my number is, it's so in my head all the time. And people laugh. They think that stuff's cheesy. And I go, laugh if you want, right? But it works. I mean,
it works. It doesn't
works.
just work. Like, look, okay, so let's talk about your success story. This is how it works. So where are you at in Keller Williams? How many agents do you have in your organization right now?
Yeah, so I have a brokerage of about 246 agents. Then my real estate team, which is the Bartig Group, we have 27 agents that are part of our real estate team. We've got a director of operations, director of marketing, transaction management team, ISA department, all of those things. And yeah, we just scaled into 2 other office locations here in the Denver Front Range. So we're in Cherry Creek, Westminster, and Highlands Ranch. And we're looking to expand into 3 other locations by the end of the year, with the growth of adding 100 more we call them agent partners with us, because they're in partnership with us. And our goal is to obviously help as many agents as humanly possible. But we set some really big goals on just minimums for what our agents do. I think about it like this, Dustin. Anytime I talk to a potential partner that wants to work with us, I say, look, I'm going to help you get to the real estate Olympics, right? I'm going to get you on that podium in less than 12 months. And if you're experienced, I'm going to get you even further than that, right? But I go, just like if you were training to go to the Olympics, it's going to take a lot of effort, and you have to show up and do that. There's going to be days where you don't want to do the sit-ups. There's going to be days where you don't want to go run. There's going to be days, I go, that's how it's going to feel in this. But if you give me that commitment, I can guarantee we'll get you on that podium. And for most people, that first podium is netting, not making $100,000. It's netting $100,000. And we just have a very specific formula. I sometimes say we're like the Orange Theory of real estate, right? Like, we know that, yes, you should get on a treadmill, you should do aerobics and do all this. But if you don't put it all together in a formula, right?
Exactly.
And you make it fun, and then also make it's constant games. I go, we're all just big kids. We like gold stars. We like rewards. We like recognition. If you don't have that, it's so tough, especially for individual agents. A lot of times, unless you're ultra self-motivated, you see the difference in an individual agent's. And not saying it's bad being an individual agent. I'm just saying it's so hard to stay self-motivated all the time, unless you're one of the ones that are just born that way.
Yeah, but that's rare. Like, that's super rare, right? Like, out of 100 people, how many people have that entrepreneurial drive, that self-motivation to get up in the morning and like get up early and get it all done, right? Sacrifices, like the sacrifices that you have to make to become successful. Not a lot of people are willing to do that and go through that. Like, what would you say out of 100 people have that kind of quality to
I would say, and I can tell just from my office, right? It's like 3 per 100. And I would say even that's probably being generous.
Probably a little high.
Yeah, that's probably a little high. But because you again, you're on an island, right? And then a lot of those will get into great coaching and programs, and that's awesome. They try to find that community somewhere else, but it's tough. And so I think the best part is just understanding that, hey, I'm going to be a part of something that's a program. And so when we started building our team, we went early in my phases when I built the team, I was looking for because I thought I knew what I was doing. I was nowhere near the leadership skills I have today, and I still have a long way to go.
Oh yeah, it's a path.
But I was looking for killers. I was looking for people that would just crush the phone, kill or be killed, and that didn't work, right? They did a lot of production, but they made everyone around them miserable and they didn't play nice in a sandbox, right? They would steal your toys, right? There were those kind of people.
Yeah, you hired sharks, right? So you got sharks in the water.
Got sharks in the water. So that balance, now the only thing we look for first, not the only, the first thing we look for is team player culture, which sounds cheesy. And you hear people say this all the time, but gosh, that's hard to pull out of. And we have an interview process that tries to extract that to see if you're going to fit in our universe. Like you said before, I can take somebody that's highly motivated, that has grit. It's a big word. I think about grit, back against the wall, tenaciousness, all of that. And they might not have the skills that this other guy or gal has. I will take that 100 times over anyone that has the skills, because they want to show up every day, be coachable, learn. They're always there to help out and want to, be a part of something bigger than themselves. So
that's energy that we can work with, right?
Yeah.
We can work with more fun. Energy. We can teach them skills. We can teach them everything, right? My last company that I built, last year as CEO, we did 843 transactions. I built that entire company on brand new baby realtors, brand spanking new realtors, right? No baggage, no expectations. You teach them exactly what they need to do. They go to work every single day, and they start performing, right? It's
and this, and like you said, it also comes down to quality of life. Again, it's the journey, right? Like, yes, you can sell X amount of homes by yourself every day, and I'm sure you can. And it's just like, but is it fun, right? Like it's just, so I think I didn't realize how important community was and culture was to people, especially in the real estate industry, and how much they were missing that, piece. And so, so we just really, we focus a great deal on making that the absolute priority. And then with our training programs and things, I think everybody's got, not everybody, a lot of people have a formula that they utilize. And you were asking me, I think earlier, about formulas. Mm-hmm. And a game changer for us was we really had to get more client specific and database specific. Before, the team was built on hunting and expireds for sell by owners and hunting calls.
Yeah,
and
calls and conversions.
That's it. And we weren't thinking about relationships. And so we had to change the entire business to be relationship focused. And we did that we have a program in our organization called 2 Buckets, 5 Commitments. So with our 2 buckets, right? The buckets are simple. It's we call them ambassadors in your farm, right? And we know formula wise, you need a certain amount of ambassadors that are on our proprietary 33 touch system. And to say it's proprietary to us. You could have your proprietary, Justin could have his proprietary 65 touch system, right? Or 29 touch.
Yeah.
But to say that, what we mean by touch system is, right, we know in our world, our average sales price here in Denver is about $600,000, right? That's currently about where we're at. So we know you need about 500 of what we call ambassadors to net $1 million a year. And I'm talking, after all expenses, net $1 million. We've done this formula with I'll interview other agents and ask them how many people are in their database. And what I mean by ambassador is, if I were to ask you, Dustin, I'd say, all right, well, how many people in your database would do real estate business with you, would refer business to you, that you have on a 33 touch or more program? That's how we quantify a MET.
Right. Yep.
And people will go, 200. And I'm like, okay, if you were to give me that phone number list of that 200, Dustin, and I called them all up and I asked each one of them just anonymously, hey, Susie, just calling real quick, who's your preferred real estate agent of choice?
Yeah.
And if they don't say your name immediately, they're not an ambassador.
Right.
There's somebody that's in your database. So what we found is a lot of us have these huge databases, right? Massive. I heard somebody the other day was like, I have 46,000 in my database. I was like, my goodness. I was like, I go, how many METs or how many ambassadors do you have? Right. We used to call them METs, but
46,000 in the database.
Yeah,
was that a brokerage, man? Like I don't
know. That was another team, but they're just looking at it because They collect
That's
every Facebook lead.
so
And I think you get to this
transactional.
point where you're just like, I have all these people in my system. I go, give
Yeah.
me someone with 200 good people versus 46,000 people that we don't know about. And,
Yeah.
and I'll show you a success. I'll show you a person that has a much better quality of life too. Right.
Oh, much
Like,
better.
yeah,
Easier, faster, less time, higher dollar per hour that you're making, everything. My God,
exactly.
46,000 people, shoot me. No, thank you.
Well, and the biggest thing in that 33 touches that changed the whole game for us was every year they get 5 personal touches.
Yeah.
And people had a real problem with understanding what a personal touch was. They were like, so I can send out a boomerang postcard for a free 2-for-1, blooming onion or whatever it is, right? Like,
Yeah.
these agents send out these postcards with the QR
Sure.
code and all this stuff.
Oh,
I go,
sure.
that's a mailer. That's not a personal touch. I go,
That's right.
if you want to be in relationship with someone, it has to be about them.
Yep.
So, Veterans Day, Mother's Day,
Yeah.
things that
Exactly.
you find out that make them know that you know who they are and that they're unique and they matter to you. And
And they're
once we
spending.
started doing that, the response was huge.
Well, the consumer knows, right? I don't know if you've seen these blasts, like a happy birthday or something like that. And it's like, hey, how you doing? It's Dustin Pritchard. I just want to wish you a happy birthday. And my sign has your name on it. So that's
Yep.
super, super genuine. No, like people see past all that stuff. That's
See
gimmicky,
past it.
right? You're
Yeah.
talking about a personal touch. Like, I'm going to take time out of my day to make sure that you know that I'm thinking about you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. One of my agents that it's amazing that works with us. He found out that the guy is one of his clients is a huge into classic cars.
Yeah.
So every year he gets him a classic car calendar. Right. That's a personal touch, just as an example.
Oh my
Right.
God.
Like think about it. When that guy gets that, it's like, man, Grant knows who I am. Like what a good guy. Like,
Yeah.
oh man, you know what? I just talked to Susie about buying her. I got to go tell her again. Make sure she calls Grant and follow up with him. Right. These people that would like stop somebody on the street and be like, I heard you say something about real estate. You've got to talk to my guy, Brendan. Like he's just unbelievable. And that's how we define an ambassador. And
Oh, absolutely.
it's just a better way of doing business,
Oh, I think
like,
so.
again, can we make, and not that you shouldn't call expireds and for sale by owners and do this outbound lead gen,
Yeah.
but it gets exhausting, right?
Well, it's
Like you're going to
It's also really expensive. Like, you know, the
do,
theory behind,
super
like,
expensive.
it costs
Yeah.
you so much money to acquire a new customer, but it
Yeah.
doesn't cost that much money for you to get the same customer to either refer or repeat.
Right.
Right? It just
Yep.
takes a bit of a relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's the game changer is just a great relationship built business. It sounds like duh, that should be common sense, but you get wrapped up, right? You get into this momentum thing and it's like, hey, Susie's buying 200 Zillow leads a month. If you buy this, you should buy those leads. And if you do that, I call them the jailhouse lawyers at the office. Everybody's got something to tell you, like how to get out of jail, right? They're like, oh,
Sure,
they're like, you need this or that new thing. And it's like, no, you need a systematic way of making your database feel special.
That's
They go,
right.
Brendan, what's the one thing you're responsible for? I go, I have to make people feel special. Sounds so cheesy and cliche, but it's like,
Little bit,
that's
but
what works.
true. You're delivering experiences or changing paradigms. Like,
Yeah.
and the only way to do that is to make people feel special. So that you're doing that. Those are the two big things that I'm pulling out of this conversation is that you're helping people change the paradigm of what's possible about, where they want to go, what they want to achieve, and then attaching their daily work to that, and then, delivering that client experience. It's and building those relationships with people in your databases sounds like two of the major reasons why you've become so successful in this business.
Yeah. And just like you were saying before is fulfillment, right? Like purpose and all of that, I think really plays into it. But people, it's a challenge, right? I mean, that's another piece that I think is tough is I coach people all across the country and talk to people. And when you go into their systems, and that word system is scary for a lot of people as well, is
Yeah.
what do you do every single time the same, tracking your processes. And we always use the analogy of, are you carrying 2 buckets down to get water every day, or did you build a pipeline? Right. And the only people that are going to have success, I see people every day trot back down with their 2 buckets and it's like to get the water and then go back up to the village. And I'm like, let's build the pipeline. And is it hard to build a pipeline? Of course it is. Does it take time and effort? But instead they just keep hitting these buckets over and over because they don't know any better, right? They don't, or they know better, they won't take a Sunday for 6 hours to go in and just structure things, right?
Yep.
So they just keep
Exactly.
going, and then they go that, the roller coaster, right? And they're on that roller coaster of success instead of,
Well,
at
yeah,
least going, or at least you're not always just going to go straight up. I mean, hopefully
no,
you're
no, no,
going to
no.
go up, and then up again, right?
Well, that's the difference between being transactional, again, doing the relationship
Mm,
building. That's a system, right? It's being
yeah.
transactional and trading time for dollars, or creating a pipeline or a system that feeds you, so that you're making a lot more in the time that you're spending. So you either spend less time and get more of your time back and earn the same money, or you can make even more money a lot easier just by applying those systems. And you're right. A lot of people get really intimidated by creating systems, and that's why coaches like us and mentors like us, we've created these systems based on our own success stories and translate that into other people's experience and helping them every single day. It sounds to me like you get a lot of fulfillment about from helping your people grow and achieve their success stories.
Well, I really do. And what I think people struggle with is they think it's insincere, right? They're like, if I have a list every day of how many handwritten note cards I need to send out, it doesn't mean I'm like this robot. It's just, if I didn't have a list, I wouldn't ever have to, they wouldn't know I cared. The
That's right.
list just helps me in the systems, and the triggers and the reminders just help me not let it not happen. I go, I talk about this all the time. It's almost like you're married, right? I go,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
go, if I wanted to stay married and all I did to stay married was send my wife, or just give my wife a birthday card once a year, and then every month a generic newsletter about our relationship, am I going to stay am I going to be with her for very long?
No,
Right.
no,
But
no.
that's how we're treating our clients.
It's a digital email card too, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
digital email card, because I'm not going to spend the money on pay. Yeah, and so
don't
it's
forget
like,
that.
it's like, you're not going to stay in that relationship very long. It's not going to happen, and nor is she going to find any value from it. So
Right.
why are we treating clients different than how we would treat someone we really love, right? And I
Yeah,
think
exactly.
that was another big shift for us, is just breaking through that mindset.
Well, yeah, breaking through that mindset and being and genuinely caring about other people, and you obviously identify those people as you're recruiting and you're hiring people into your organization. That kind of a mindset, that heart set. That's really, really important, because you obviously want to build your brand and grow your brand. With partners that are going to treat your customers the way that you would treat your customers and things like that.
Yeah, well, I think it's like what Zig Ziglar said. He's like, I don't want to hire people and train them to be nice. I want to hire nice people.
Yeah,
Right. And I was like, yeah, gosh, that's,
that
it's such
makes sense.
a critical, it sounds common sense, but it's like, yeah, just hire nice people. I shouldn't have to sit there and talk to you about how to be a good person. It should just be oozing out of you, right? Or a
Yeah,
caring person, maybe not good person, but caring person. So,
that's
so yeah,
amazing.
it's been an interesting journey. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Mike Ferry organization, but
Yep.
I was a Mike Ferry agent, and it's a very, aggressive call, killer, be killed style. And my
Yeah.
mentor, who was an amazing agent and broker owner, she brought me into that. So I didn't know any other way. I thought the only
Right.
way you could do it in this business was call till your ears bled, go on as many appointments with random people that you possibly could. And when you closed, you said goodbye to them, and you moved on, right?
Pure
And
sales.
I think I was doing like 8% of my business was like by referral, and was able to switch that to like 78%, right?
Yeah.
And that's just, but not without a lot of education. I had to
Yeah.
learn a lot
Yeah.
of things.
Some education.
Um,
I can see the
yeah,
pain in your face. Like,
yeah, exactly. A lot of
education.
kicked in the face. Yeah, for sure. But now it's just more fulfilling, right? And so yeah, just excited. And I think that's, like we said, you as well. We just like to share what we've learned. And now that's the most exciting part, is just going yeah, like I didn't have it all figured out, but let me remove at least 20 punches in the face that I can for you, that I got punched with, so you don't have to, right?
That's
Like
exactly right.
that's all we're doing. Just
Oh, we spent the
saving you.
time. We spent the money. My God, I was talking to people the other day. I swear I spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on education,
Oh,
and then I spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on the mistakes that I made
yep.
over the
Yep.
years. And that's all we want to do, is we just want to be able to help people get there faster. Time dilation, right?
That's it.
We just want to
That's
create
it.
that time dilation effect so they can get there faster, easier, and less pain.
Yeah.
Awesome.
100%.
Awesome. Brandon, thank you so much for being on the show again.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure to jam with you and talk business. It's super cool. Awesome haircut. We seem to have the same kind of origin story and success story as well. So
Also, all the lessons we learned, right?
and the lesson, that's from the lessons. Like, we had a full head of hair 5 years ago, guys.
That was it.
Not really. Not really. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today on Mega Mornings. Brendan Bartic, again, back on the show. Thank you so much, brother. Really appreciate you coming on the show. Have a fantastic day, everybody. Peace out. Have fun. Make money.
My name is Dustin Pritchard, and my mission is to help agents scale their business by creating life-changing incomes through the power of mentoring. Learn how my team sold over 840 homes in 1 year using powerful but simple mentoring systems that you can implement in your business immediately. If you want to turn your license into a business that overflows with income and free time, go to megamomentum.team to claim your free spot today.